Let me just try one more thing here. Can you guys hear me now? Let me know if you can hear Carneros. And then let me see what I can do with the other ones. Is it, oh dear Lord. Okay. All right. So I attached one for me, but how do I attach one for you, Elise? And you, Mark? Hang on a second. Yeah. Okay, guys, if any of you smarty boots out there knows how to add Discord audio into an OBS scene, let me, feel free to type it into Fleet Chat. And no, Mark is not wearing the bathrobe right now. And I'm only coming through the left channel. I might have done that. Actually, hang on. That left channel's better than that. It's better than poor CCP Swift has. Okay, hang on a second. An additional audio source that is my desktop audio. Okay, Elise, can I get you to say something for the crowd?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you guys can hear me. If not, you guys can learn to read lips very effectively.
Okay, it's going to take a couple seconds for them to let us know if they heard anything.
It works.
Okay, Mark, can you say a few words, please? No, Mark.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know. I'm here.
All right, good. Say something to the crowd. Can y'all hear Mark?
Hello, friends. Can you hear me? I'm also here.
Ladies and gentlemen.
In fact, I've been here the whole time.
Ah, nice. Okay, so we've got all the audios going through except for Carneros is only on the left side for some people, but that's okay. Just pretend like he's sitting on your left. He's on the left on the screen anyways.
Nice recovery. Ladies, Elise, please introduce our guest.
Absolutely. So I myself and CCP Swift, I am joined by the wonderful Carneros, who we threw into the production role, and he's doing amazingly. For this day 2 of the CSM interviews, or candidate interviews for CSM16, we're going to be following the same general format that we did for day 1, and which the same format we did in CSM15. Essentially, we're just going to get these candidates. The first one for this evening is Mark Resurrectus. We give them 10 minutes to have a chat about why they should be a CSM, just an introductory to you guys, the community, to learn more about them. And we have a few questions along the way if we need to. So without further ado, I think we're going to hop right into it. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I am here. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys. I assure all of you people in the chat that I am dressed only in a bathrobe. I know you can't tell because you just see my avatar, but take my word for it. I have not gone back on my morals yet.
Well, I can actually attest to the fact that he is sporting the same robe, or maybe a different robe, but it's definitely a robe.
No, it's the same one. It's
all right, yeah. One. I just didn't want to throw you under the bus too much for.
No, you're good.
No, and so as I mentioned, you guys, or rather, as Mark alluded to, we are not the only source for CSM16 interviews. The community is doing a fantastic job giving more in-depth interviews with the candidates. Mark, did you do an interview with Asherathi yesterday?
I did. I was on Asherathi's show yesterday. It was a lovely time. I had the distinct pleasure of following after the truly monumentally sized shoes of Mr. Brisker Ball, which was not at all horrifying to me, a first-time CSM candidate. It's okay, nobody's mad. But no, we had a good time. It was a lot of fun. We had a really good conversation, I think. I probably talked too much. But Ashtaroth, he was a super cool dude. And looking forward to doing that show and any future shows. Would love to do that, and excited to be here today.
All right. Well, those are big shoes to fill. Certainly wet shoes to fill, since I've seen Brisk in the hot tub before.
Yeah.
But let's hop right into it. I'm going to put 10 minutes on the clock. It's not like a super crazy clock or anything, so feel free to just use it as you see fit.
Sure.
And just tell us a little bit about Mark Resurrectus.
Awesome. Yeah, so I started playing Eve back in 2006 when I was just a kid. You know, me and some friends of mine who were in the same band class in our middle school. We picked up the game because one of our friends had an older brother who was playing, and we fell in love with it. I mean, Eve is one of those games that offered something, especially at the time, that you couldn't get anywhere else. And I still feel like that holds true even today. Eve offers a unique experience that is, one of a kind in gaming in general. So I fell in love playing Eve, but we were, poor kids. Well, not poor kids, but we didn't have any money. We didn't work because we were, lazy 13-year-olds. So we just sort of played whenever we were able to get free weekends or free months here and there. And spent a lot of time mining, a lot of time running level 4 missions in high sec, but it was one of those things where we learned quickly that the thing we loved so much about the game was not necessarily flying the big spaceships, though that certainly is no less the appeal. But we enjoyed flying with our friends and enjoyed building a community that way. And I still fly with some of those guys today. Here we are now, just 18, 19 years later. Or less than that because I can't do math. 15 years later. So I have been, so I played off and on for a number of years. And then in 2016, joined Test during the first B War and was there for a couple of months. It was fine. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't really the play style for me. And then in 2019, I joined a Wormhole Corp and I dove headfirst into that and loved it. I consider myself a Wormhole candidate now, here after living out here for, 2.5 years. I feel like I've seen a lot, definitely not everything Wormholes have to offer. But my group, Turbo Feeder Glory, is a mid-sized Wormhole group. And we have built what I feel like is a really strong community of players and, a network of friends that we absolutely love turning into atomized space carbon at every opportunity. We have a good time, and we fundamentally believe that the point of playing Eve is to enjoy playing Eve. So my goal as a CSM candidate is to do everything I can to maximize the amount of fun wormholers can have playing Eve. And I feel like the best way we can do that is to create more content and introduce more levels of extreme violence. I feel like it's not that hard. It's a very simple process. Make violence and wormholers are happy. It's great. It's the perfect recipe. So, there are things that we've talked about, and I have a website you can go to if you want to learn more about my platform. You can go to turbofeederglory.com/mark CSM16. You can read more about the things that I feel most strongly about. But I feel like, my big thing is that I have a strong platform, a good network of people who advise me because I'm no expert. There are plenty of other CSM candidates and plenty of other players of the game who know more about Eve than I do. And I'm not going to pretend and sit here and lie to anybody and tell you that I'm the foremost authority, even on wormhole space, that I claim to, want to try and represent. That would be dumb and silly, and I won't do it. Instead, I can just say that I will work the hardest. I will do the best work that I can do to represent you and you in wormhole space and in the rest of the game. I feel like by making wormholes better, that makes the game in general better. And that is what I want to do because I like playing Eve and I like having fun playing Eve. And it is, it is a simple process. If I can make Eve better by being CSM, then I want to do that because I like Eve. It's a very simple equation. So that's where I'm at about it. I could go into more detail if you want to. The long and short of it is I'm the CEO of the Holy Roman Empire, which is part of the aforementioned Turbo Feeder Glory alliance, and we are involved in all sorts of different things. I think they're running ops right now while I'm doing this. I'm probably going to go do that right after I'm done here. And we get involved, and I've seen a lot of things out there. I've been involved with a lot of different people, a lot of different groups, big and small, and feel like it's something that is important for us to have a representation on the CSM for those groups. Wormholers, I feel like, and infighting is no doubt part of this, but wormholers have the tendency to try and self quarantine in a way, and we are very good at making sure that nobody really has a central voice among us. And honestly, that's kind of what I like about wormholers, that nobody seems to want to agree on anything. So as it is a tricky business to try and get everybody to line up on who they think should be the best CSM candidate. And so what I'm asking everyone to do, close your eyes, imagine for a second that you're standing on a cliffside, and I walk up next to you and say, please grab my hand. I want to take you to a place where wormholes are better and more violent, and the ships are cool, and then you can do more fighting, and it's very cool. And you say, yes, Mark, yes, please. I want this more than anything else in my life. And I say, okay, grab my hand, and then we both jump off the cliff and ascend to the sky. That's what I want out of wormholes and out of Eve, and that's basically where I'm at about it. So I yield my time to CCP Swift. Thank you, sir.
So in the we do have one Twitch chat question for you.
Sure.
In the aforementioned scene that you beautifully laid out.
Thank you.
Are you wearing the robe? Well,
yeah.
Okay.
The robe is so it's a funny story, and there are probably plenty of people in the chat right now who are like, why in the world is this guy talking about a bathrobe? I don't know if any of you know this. I currently have the highest rated ever recruitment posts on the Reddit Eve Jobs forum. No, it thanks no small part to a quip I make in that post about wearing a bathrobe, and it kind of became a meme, as the kids say. So I like being casual. I like being relaxed. It's part of my whole brand. And yeah, so I'm going to go on some shows and wear a bathrobe. I'm not ashamed about it. Is it hot? Yes, I live in Georgia. It's very warm here. But I'm not ashamed. It's just the way the ball bounces, baby. We're out here making moves. What do you want me to say? Anyway, yes, I hope that answers your question.
I think a lot of people didn't wear a lot of fancy outfits for the past year. So,
Well, I always say dress for the job you want. And the job that I want is to be sitting in my chair at home. So that's sort of where I'm at about it spiritually. But I take as much fun as we have. I take the prospect of being a CSM candidate and being a member of CSM very seriously. I really do believe there are common sense ideas that could be introduced or at least discussed between the players and the developers about a way to move forward that benefits everybody in the best way we can. And I strongly feel like at least having a voice in the room to represent wormholers is important. I would obviously, consider myself just one of many great wormhole candidates. I would ask all of our friends in null sec and in low sec and in high sec and really any sec, if you think about it, to consider putting wormhole candidates on your ballot this year. There are 10 slots on that ballot, and unless you're in Karma Fleet, you're probably not going to fill them all up with your own guys. So please consider putting wormholers on your ballot. It is a great idea. Wormholes are a ton of fun. I obviously always recommend to people to come out and try them at least once. There are a ton of great groups that we work with that have great programs for people who have never been in wormholes before and want to try them out. It's a really fun really fun place to play the game. And I would not be out here if I did not have fun doing it. So I recommend you do that too. And I recommend that you vote for, again, CSM candidates from wormholes, because wormholes are better, equal game better, equal everybody's happier. The end.
All right. Well, I think you actually got right to the 10-minute mark.
Nice. I did it.
So you rehearsed. It really shows. I appreciate it.
I listened to the Astarothi interview like 5 times. I was like, okay, here are all the things I need to do differently. So I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to hear what the rest of the candidates have to say. Just want to shout out all my boys in Turbo and Roma, all my friends out there in Wormhole Space. You guys are great. I love you. Turbo is recruiting. Shout out to my boy Conoco, who's out there doing hard work. He's working at his job. You got this. Make that green, baby. And I also support cat ears on player characters. Peace. Mark is done. Thank you.
All right. So
Great
that is wonderful.
Okay, now we're gonna try to do a switch here. So bear with us for a moment, folks. This is not going to be pretty.
Our next guest, while Carneros is working in the background to fix things, will be Broodin. He'll be on in just a couple of minutes here. No rush or anything of the sort.
Oh, I see what I did wrong. Don't look, don't look. Don't look, you're looking. Okay, hang on. No, that's okay, that's not as lined up as we would like, but I'll get better at this as we go. My apologies.
All right, I'm going to actually move Broodin in here now so we can get him all set up. And hopefully that didn't break anything.
Nope.
Oh, it looks great.
Go for it. Let's. Oh, can we hear him?
Yes, I believe you.
Oh, fantastic! Fantastic! Welcome to the show, Broodin.
Thank you. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right, so we went through this a little bit, we're a bit behind schedule, but we're caught up now, it looks like, or about it. Broodin, welcome to the CSM16 interview phase. I just sounded like a game show host for some reason, but we've got about 10 minutes for you to give your, your brief CSM pitch to the EVE Online community. And I do know, just similar to Mark before you, I've seen you over the EVE media sphere. Just quickly introduce yourself and tell us where we can learn a little bit more about you and where we might have seen some, or where we might be able to see some extra CSM16 interview footage with you.
I got off on Tuesday with Astarothi late at night. It was quite a long stream, but it was a very good one. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that. I spend a lot of time with Karma Fleet, a lot more time nowadays with Karma Fleet University. Many people have seen me running around HiSec trying to pull people into our classes. It's good times, good things. I spend a lot of time teaching, not a lot of time monologuing, so this is going to sound kind of crazy. I didn't realize it was a monologue style interview, but hey, what are you going to do?
It doesn't have to be. Don't worry. We've got some questions. We've got pretty much the format that suits your needs is what we go for. So you touched on a little bit already yourself. How long have you been playing EVE Online?
I've been playing, closing on 6 years. I started in August of 2015. And incidentally, I, for those who may argue the point, I didn't join Karma Fleet till September of 2018. So I've got a lot of experience in high sec and traveling around in a small group as well as large groups. And I think that actually gives me quite a bit of an edge as far as understanding what a lot of different play styles need rather than just having only experience in one section.
All right. So where would you say your primary experience lies, or what do you consider your primary experience?
My primary experience is honestly just small group leadership. I spent a couple of years in Karma Fleet just doing outreach, and then from the time that I really joined the game, about a month and a half into it, I joined a small corporation that my buddy was a part of, my squad leader for my first tour in Iraq, and he pulled me into it right away as soon as he found out I was playing Eve, and from there, kind of picked up the helm. You know, they had a power vacuum, so when you need to, you step up and help people where you can, teach where you can, and that's where I really found my love in this game. And my end state, my end goal in EVE Online is to teach people how to do things. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I have a lot. I spend a lot of time doing it nowadays. So I that's what I do the most. I've spent time crossing the gambit. I've toyed around in low sec. I've tried living in a wormhole. Wasn't a huge fan, but I respect the people who do, because that's a tougher life than I want to live with trying to do whole control. It is mind-boggling. But at the end of the day, I've spent a lot of time in high sec doing small group and now medium-sized group. Karma Fleet University today tipped over 1,500 members or 1,500 characters. So yeah, it's been an incredible ride thus far, and I think that taking some of the lessons that I've learned across the last almost 6 years can be beneficial across the board.
What's one of the first one or two things that you try to teach a new player who's just coming in, and maybe they don't know very much, but they've somehow find their way to Karma Fleet University?
The first thing I teach anybody is forget the mechanics, forget the game itself, and get involved with the community. This is an MMO. This game, like any MMO, is only as good as the community you're playing it with.
Mm-hmm.
Get involved, get on Discord,
Mm-hmm.
talk to us, have a good time. Tell us about your pets, tell us about your passions, and we'll find somewhere that fits you, something that suits your personality, and a community that'll be accepting of you. That honestly would be the first and foremost thing, and anybody that's in KFU could attest to that. I will always and forever be a fan of this community. I've seen the wonderful things that Broadcast for Reps has done, the EVE University has done. I've started seeing a lot of the stuff good. As we grow, we're able to generate more positive activity coming out of Karma Fleet University. And that is what I love. I love seeing humans connecting with humans and positively influencing each other's lives.
There's a nice
All right,
question from chat too. What's an improvement you would push for to help improve the experience for new players?
If you, and again, back to things I miss because I'm bad at monologuing, pancakecat.com. Look at item number 2. Look at item number 1 and item number 2 for as far as new player experience style things and small group leadership style things. So some of the stuff that I'm very passionate about is finding ways to connect people with the community. The new EVE adventure that has popped up in the last week, I've got it on my other screen here. Let me see here.
The EVE Academy, I believe, is.
I was introduced to it. This is the end of softball season for my girls, so it's been an absolutely mind-boggling mess to try and keep up to date with everything. But the EVE Academy is a good start, but having the community part of it at the bottom, I think really detracts from the community, and only listing the big groups is also somewhat detrimental because some people don't like a large group. Some people like small group leadership, small group activities. Wormholers may want to have their own starting group or bring in new players into their community or their friends that want to pull in, whatever. I think that by making a CCP-oriented list of requirements and then having corporations live up to and exceed those to be able to be listed, I think would be beneficial to all. It lets CCP set the bar, and those who achieve and aspire are benefited by being able to contribute to the lives of new players.
And as I've been working quite a bit with CSM15, and I will like to add, like that type of feedback, I think is very effective for a CSM candidate. So it is nice to see that that is the style of feedback that you have. Sort of on that note, what do you feel is like the best role of the CSM?
And honestly, unless I'm put in a situation, I can't really make a fair evaluation of it. I mean, I've never been in the room. I tend to be a stabilizing force, a negotiator. I tend to find common ground where people don't realize it actually exists. I tend to be able to pull myself, and this is part of military experience. You pull yourself up from the first person point of view almost to a bird's eye view and look down at the scenario and figure out, okay, these are the pieces on the board. Push my personal beliefs to the side. What problems could it solve? What benefits could it have? Where can we find some common ground that will make everybody at least okay with this, if not happy with this to begin with?
Yeah.
All right, I think those are very strong qualities for a CSM. So even if you haven't been in the room, I'd say you've got a pretty good grasp on what it takes to be an effective communicator, which is really 80% of the CSM's job.
That's what I've come to understand. I mean, communications are difficult in Eve. You know, we make a long strides as a community, but language is always a barrier. Verbiage is always a barrier. I pick on one of our INN hosts because he's British, and I love to pick on him with biscuits and gravy because he loves to yell at me that it's actually scones and sausage sauce. And we go back and forth, and every day I banter with him at least a little bit over it. So even though we may speak the same language, we're not always speaking the same language, and understanding that, I think, is vital to any form of communication.
Wonderful.
All right, that is absolutely hilarious. Sorry, I believe I cut you off, Carneros.
No, wonderful. This, I like what I'm hearing.
So one of the other very important aspects of the CSM is to relay information back to the community. If you are elected, for people that don't know, you are pretty well established in a very large online community. But how do you plan to interact with the rest of the community?
I try and this may sound like a horrible thing, but I collect Discords. I love Discord servers. I love the service. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's very fast to communicate things from point A to point B through different communities. I mean, I've got at least 15, 20 on my favorites list, and then I've got another probably 30 or 40 sorted into groups. If somebody's interested in something, poke me on Discord, Broodin8208. I leave it open because Karma Fleet University accepts everybody, and I talk to anybody. Shoot me an idea. Please don't send it in a Google Doc because I'm not going to give you my real name, not off the bat, until we're chums and I've taken you out for coffee a couple times. But hey, it is what it is. If you want to communicate an idea to me, if you're curious about something, ask questions. That's generally the way humans learn. And learning at the end of the day is kind of a fun thing in this game.
Yeah.
Eve is, I have found to be very humbling because there is always something new to learn, even if you think you are a master of everything. But that is great. Accessibility is huge. And I agree with your point that Discord has made this whole thing a lot easier. If I can,
Absolutely.
if I can be an old man for a moment, back in my day, we didn't have Discord. We had Skype, and everyone hated Skype because it was a very leaky thing. But I did just check real quick, and we share, I believe, around 10 Discords. So it checks out. You are in a lot of Discords.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Honestly, I'm bad at keeping track of who's in what Discord, but as far as where I can find stuff, I have it neatly organized on my desktop. And you could see my family sports bin behind me. That's my collection of softball stuff for my girls' sports and some of
Yes.
my son's baseball stuff still there.
It's
But you know what? You ask me, where's the pants? Where's the socks? Where's the extra softballs so we can practice? I know exactly where the stuff is. Same with Discord.
That's a wonderful analogy, and I wish I could organize my Discord nearly as well as you do. But actually, on that note, we are pretty close to the 10-minute mark. Uh, Carneros, do you have any added thoughts?
Sounds great. I think it's great to have new player specialists on here, and also people who can find common ground between mixed viewpoints. That's very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, let's just face it. Eve's a game about war and conflict, but at the end of the day, we're all playing it. We're developing it in some cases, gentlemen. We're all in this together, and unless we take the steps to improve and sustain the quality of game that we have, we don't have much of a future. And honestly, I love playing Eve, so I have a vested personal interest in making sure that I do my best to keep the game running at whatever capacity I'm capable of doing it. So that's why I'm running. That's what I'm here to do.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, Broodin. A wonderful chat. And as you mentioned before, if people want to learn a little bit more about you, I've linked in chat the your CSM candidate page. And I also know you have another page called pancakecat.com, which is very real and not fake like I thought it might be as I was typing into my search bar. So
I
that's
love that that's my favorite shtick in the entire game because it's cute, it's adorable. I've got it hanging on my wall, and at the end of the day, it's not going to get anybody in trouble with their spouse if their kids walk in and they're playing this crazy YouTube video of a cat and pancakes. No one's going to get mad about it. It's just something. It's harmless, cute fun that you can troll somebody with, and nobody gets hurt. And that's a beautiful thing in today's world.
that absolutely is.
Amen.
Well, again, thank you very much. Our next guest, which will be appearing shortly, is Richman. So we're just going to prepare everything for you guys. Just close your eyes and think of some elevator music while we do this.
Nice. Thank you.
Something so maybe like "Girl from Ipanema." Just have that playing, and we'll get Rich in here very shortly. Again, thank you, Broodin. We look forward to seeing more from you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity.
Ta-da. Not the changeovers are yeah. Sorry guys. I should have hummed something. That would have been a good idea, but I can't do two things at once. If you've ever been in a fleet with me, you know that.
All right, well, we've got Richman here, the man himself, looking very swanky, not only on his character portrait, but also on video.
Okay. How are you feeling, by the way? And can you say something so we
Sure.
make sure it works?
Yes. How do I sound, gentlemen?
Fantastic.
Shall we begin? Okay. I'm Rich.
Yeah,
Richman.
so
Oh,
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was actually just gonna have you do exactly what you're doing. So by all means, give us a little brief introduction. Tell us about Richman, and also in chat for those interested, I'm gonna put Rich's CSM campaign thread, which is a great resource to start learning more about him.
hi, I'm Rich Richman, and I'm running for CSM16. I started EVE late into 2019, so I'm comparatively quite a new player to EVE. I was recruited by a good friend of mine who I worked with in terms of security and other real life jobs, and they wanted my skills in EVE for a little project of theirs. Unfortunately, things didn't go so well, and I ended up just doing a lot of small gang. During my time there, I did quite a bit of roaming, and I found one problem, which is something I'm going to be focusing on for my CSM campaign. That issue I saw in all these regions I roamed in was bots, lots and lots of bots. And I have a background in terms of botting and RMT, real money transactions, the act of selling ISK for real world money, which is illegal by the game rules. But I don't have that experience in Eve. I have it from other games I've played in the past. You might have seen me roaming around in your space, or you might have seen some articles I've written, or on a stream somewhere. Recently, I was on the German streamer Wardeck stream along with my Talking in Stations colleague Dr. Spodomane, and I was also on Ashtarothi's CSM stream. My CSM goals is to drive out botting. I wish to be part of the council and to counsel CCP on the best ways to cripple botting, sabotage RMT networks, and generally raise the value of Plex, raise in terms of in-game ISK, not real-world money, but raise the amount of Plex people purchase and just make the game better, with fewer bots damaging the economy and the integrity of the game.
All right, so that's a very noble cause. I think that's something that everyone can agree on. Botting is very bad. I hate it. I'm sure everyone hates it. No one likes it. So that is essentially the main thing that you will be bringing to the CSM. You mentioned you also have some expertise in small gangs. What would you say your main expertise is in terms of gameplay styles in Eve and your experience in the game in that respect?
My main experience in small gangs is being the hunter and flying the tackle and control during smaller fleets. Small fleets in terms of numbers usually smaller than 10. Highly skill-intensive fleets that require a lot of attention, a lot of manual piloting, and on-the-fly decision making. It's along with hunting using an interceptor, which is something I learned to be rather proficient at in order to hunt down targets, tackle targets, begin fights, and get my corp and my friends content to have fun with.
So basically, you do the hard job in Eve, right? You find the bad guy or the target, however you want to call them, and then you pin him down, and then call in for the cavalry, well, the very small cavalry in your small gangs to then kill them. So admirable, hard to do. I can't do that. I try, but I'm quite bad.
There's a reoccurring joke that in a lot of PvP groups, they are just 2, 3 or so people and Discord ping. Well, for some groups this may be true, and for me, I am that person with the Discord ping ready.
We
So
get
people may have. Oh, sorry.
we get to see you on various shows regularly, and if you get elected to the CSM, what are your thoughts about communicating your views and your participation and your information two ways with the player base? Are we going to tell us your thoughts on that? How are you going to communicate back to the players?
I plan to communicate back to the players by continuing my appearance on talk shows and my interactions on Discord in general. I'm
Okay.
quite active in the Less Than 10 Small Gang Discord
Okay.
and on the TI Talking in Stations Discord, among other Eve Discords that I'm part of.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
And there's maybe a little bit of overlap here from some of your introduction before, but you don't have to restate anything. But you mentioned a few other people that you've worked with, co-host with Dr. Spod, who is also running for the CSM. What do you feel distinguishes you from the rest of the candidates running for CSM16?
I feel that I'm distinguished by the fact I'm very focused on something that is a very big problem in EVE Online, the whole issue of botting and RMT. Entire swaths of nullsec regions, the in-game economy, the inflation, and even the prices of Plex and the supplies of certain chips are affected by this problem that's plagued so many games I've played in the past, and there are no other candidates so zealously focused and dedicated to the Eradication is a difficult word to say because I believe there will always be real money transaction and botting in video games. Somebody will always try to write a countermeasure. It will be a game of cat and mouse, but I will try my best to seek policies and ways to cripple it and to reduce its influence as much as possible.
On that note, would you, when the CSM gets involved with CCP to discuss upcoming mechanics, they are consulted in various stages of the design process. Early on, in the middle, and sort of the refining period towards the end. Obviously, not every single issue gets to be completely defined by the CSM, but there is some guidance there. Would you incorporate this anti-botting stance in terms of like when it comes to designing a new mechanic or iterating on a new mechanic, or do you think let the feature exist and then deal with botting in a different way? How do you feel about that dynamic?
I think if I were to be a part of the council and to see certain updates that are about to be released or changes to the games, I would certainly add my input to say what may benefit botting and how could we cripple it, and ways to potentially add even further difficulties for bot makers to create something so automated. I would do my utmost best to counsel CCP on what changes could be detrimental or beneficial to the campaign to reduce the amount of botting and illegal RMT in this game.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Just another. I think we do have still a little bit more time here. Obviously, the floor is yours if there's anything specifically you want to chat about. But I'm happy to lob more things at you.
Well, I want to talk about just how damaging this is to the game. Think of a lot of the items in Eve. Eve itself in the game, the economy, the markets are very player driven, and when you have this entity, this botting group or these IMT groups, they can drastically affect the game because they begin purchasing up items, and this damages the integrity of the game. This damages the spirit and the idea of everything is player driven when they can affect it to this scale. And I don't think there's a single group responsible in terms of the null blocks or any kind of alliance or group in the game for bots and RMT. It is a borderless issue. It is an issue that plagues all sectors of the game. It does not have any loyalties or identities. And the problem I see is not enough is being done by CCP. These bots are already profitable by their first few hours of function. If you see a bot that is 1 or 2 days old, possibly in a Gila 5.0 security status, and you report it and get an email, the cruel reality is that bot has already profited. And if it's moved money to a mule account and filtered out, that money could already be profit for these RMTers in their PayPal accounts. And until we can find a way to drastically reduce that, and until we can find a way to ban them before these bots even profit, they don't care how many bots are banned. They don't care about the consequences as long as their PayPal accounts are in the green. And it affects us, it affects the game, it affects you. Flex prices are at a very problematic level as a result of their influence. And when people start purchasing illegal RMT, it steals money from the developers and it damages the game economy. I want to leave no stone unturned. I want to find the most creative of endings for them and to find the best solutions to deal with them using my knowledge and expertise from past games and my younger self botting and illegally RMTing when I was a teenager.
All right. Well, I think that is something that we can all agree on is that botting does ruin, uh, the gameplay styles for everyone in Eve Online, and that's why it's bad. If this is just a clip of a PSA, botting is bad. You heard it here first. Well, thank you very much, Richman. Um, are you going to be appearing on any other Eve talk shows to discuss your CSM campaign, or have you already? And if so, where can other people find this information?
I've made an appearance on Astaroth's stream. I've also previously written articles on the New Eden Post on about botting and how it's affected other games and even other countries' economies, such as Venezuela being one of the big examples. If you are German or there was a on-stream translator, the German stream of Wardeck has a stream of myself and Dr. Spaldemain, and I believe I'll be making more appearances on streams as soon as this hand heals.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rich. We look forward to seeing more from you. And again, I've just put in chat Rich Richman's CSM campaign thread, which is a great resource. It's actually a good starting off point to learn about any CSM candidate. So if you're interested in learning more, just head on over there. And in this, the CSM candidates will talk about their campaigns, and they'll also link information about where you can find more about them. In the case of Rich, he's got some great articles linked right at the bottom.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Swift recovery with your hand. It was a surprise to see what happened to you today, and I'm very glad you were still able to come on our show. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Coming up next is candidate Stitch Kaneland. This is not his first time running for the CSM. We're going to bring him in here, get everything set up. This is, once again, your Girl from Ipanema time. So get some humming going on, tap your foot a little bit. It is a very infectious song. And, music theory-wise, it's also very weird and bizarre about how it's put together.
Oops.
So you can discuss that amongst yourselves. And we'll be back very shortly with Stitch Kaneland.
Oops. All right. I hope that's his picture. Hoje que coisa mais linda do copo dourado do sol de Ipanema. I don't know. Okay.
Great news. That is Stitch Kaneland's picture. I've seen those creepy white eyes and been terrified of them because he is a prolific PvPer, and if I see him in local, it means I'm probably dead.
Please God, I hope his microphone's working.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yay! Yes. Welcome
All right,
to the
Stitch.
show.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the CSM16 interviews. You've done this process before in CSM15, so just for the viewer's sake, I'm going to quickly outline the format a little bit. We're just going to give you 10 minutes to chat about Stitch Kaneland, the CSM representative, what you represent, what you're looking to accomplish on the CSM, things like that. By all means, it doesn't have to be a monologue, so if you get to the thing before 10 minutes expire, we'll throw some questions at you as well. But from here on out, take the floor is yours, sir.
All right. So for CSM16 this year, I'm primarily kind of piggybacking off my last, my last campaign, which was focusing on low sec, both faction warfare, non-faction warfare, wormholes, small gang, solo PvP, and then I think the primary one is general ship and ecosystem balance. So I started Eve back in 2011. Started, the typical high sec place, did missions, and then I kind of got adopted by a nullsec group, and back then they were a lot smaller, like 100 people. And I lived out in nullsec for about 3 years and participated in fleet fights and did the old station, the old SOV where you just shot stations, not citadels. And then after that, I got a little burnt out from constant CTAs and decided I was going to do my own thing. And that's when I dove into faction warfare. And I did faction warfare from 2013 to 2016. You kind of call it the golden years of faction warfare, until about 2015 when Citadel's released and kind of squashed a lot of faction warfare content. And then from there, I lived as a nomad in non-faction warfare low-sec and kind of wandered around and just baited people into fights, making them think that I was a ratter so that they would cloak their expensive T3 cruisers next to me or decloak them and, try and get an easy kill, but then I would just kill them with torpedoes. So you may have seen my torpedo videos, and that's where I got some of my popularity from. But more recently, and even back in 2015, I've made a lot of posts on the old Eve forums and on Reddit regarding balance. Um, a lot of those balance suggestions have come to fruition, whether that is from me, putting that idea into CCP's head, or CCP was already planning on doing these things. I think that kind of showcases that either one, in being in a CSM position, if I have these ideas and CCP likes them enough to introduce them, then that kind of gives me an edge over others, as I've been able to push through ideas outside the CSM, or I have I'm on the same kind of wavelength as CCP in regards to balance, both for ships and ecosystem, that we're kind of already, on the same page. And again, that would make me very useful in the CSM position since we kind of think the same. um,
Now, what's a recent balance change that's gone through that you like, that you're happy with?
Recent. I think I wouldn't say there's one specific one because every balance change has various other pieces attached to it. There's always good things in most balance changes. Um, some things are questionable. um, Others are, kind of what we're looking for. I'd say some of my favorite changes have been like the T2 ammo changes and surgical strike.
Yeah, nice.
Not necessarily the resistance changes. In some ways it was good, some ways it was bad. But yeah, the T2 ammo changes were a favorite. I like some of the interdictor changes that happened because
Yeah.
some of the interdictors were really underutilized. Um,
What's another ship that needs a purpose or a rebalance or a makeover?
I mean, I would say the entire Navy battleship lineup, but if we wanted to pick one specific, the Armageddon Navy issue, because it serves no purpose in pretty much any of the meta at this point, and every other laser battleship can do its job better and cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's flip it around backwards for a second. What is a purpose for which there needs to be a ship and there really is no ship for it? How about that? Like, for
Uh,
example, I think there should be a booster that can go as fast as a monitor, but there isn't one. Unless it's really, really small and then it has like no hit points.
so, I mean, I've got a lot of them, but I'll pick one or two that are easy to talk through. For one, I'd like to see T2 attack battlecruisers because attack battlecruisers are some of my favorite
Nice.
ships. But also, I think the role of attack battlecruisers are very defined. They are glass cannons, they are high DPS, but they're easily countered by other general purpose subcaps. Like if you bring tornadoes against Feroxes, Feroxes are going to wipe the floor with a bunch of tornadoes. But with T2, they could specialize a bit further as a anti-capital subcap. Not to say that we need it right now, but that's just kind of the general idea. And then the other idea I've had, which is a little bit more complex, is, and this is something I've talked about before, which is fortress shield battleships. So instead of just having a oversized Guardian or oversized semi for logistic battleships, they would serve a completely different role by acting as a fortress shield and mitigating damage on anything that's either inside of them or that they are targeting directly. But they'd be very expensive and they would rely purely on their own active tank. So they'd be like mini facts, but you're not repairing anything. You're mitigating damage and you're managing your cap to keep up that damage mitigation.
Wow. You had me at Tech 2 Tornado, if we're really honest. But yeah.
I just want the T2 Naga so we can have a torpedo Naga, like we should have in
Yeah.
the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were around in the era when those attack battle cruisers were first being introduced, and some of the very early designs for the Naga did have it as this completely overpowered torpedo boat, which was super fun to tinker with.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day, if you're on the CSM, you can bend CCP Rise's ear and be like, just whisper sweet nothings about the a torpedo Naga.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe another thing to not necessarily talk about ship balance, but just to add it in there in case anyone is unfamiliar with me. I am a single account, single character player, so I do not have alts. I do my industry, I do my scanning, I do exploration, my ratting, my PvP. Everything is done from this one character. So I think that gives me a slightly different perspective on how Eve is played compared to a lot of other people. There's certain concessions you have to make when playing Eve in this way, and you learn a lot about general, how to handle fights, how to handle navigation without alts, especially when you're playing solo. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm in Tuskers, so we do small gang on occasion where, I have other people supporting me. And again, like I mentioned in the beginning, I have done nullsec fleet stuff before. Maybe not as big as the current things, but I went through the same. Sitting in station, sitting on undock, waiting for people to finally ship into logistic ships.
Wow.
I dealt with CTAs and bashing stations late in the evening because we had a spy and they flipped the station. So I'm pretty familiar with pretty much every aspect of the game. I've experienced it. Um, and then with that single account character, that does again give me a different perspective than most candidates.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Stitch. We're actually just coming to the end of the 10 minutes, but that was a very insightful chat. Again, as with all of the CSM16 candidates, a great resource for you to learn more about them is their EVE Online campaign thread, which I've linked in the chat. Stitch, are you going to be going on any other shows in the future? Or rather, do you have any definitive schedules from where people may be able to hear more information about you as a CSM16 candidate?
So I've been on several interviews already. I just did Ash's interview a couple days ago. That's on my CSM thread. I've done the DTM interview. That was a couple weeks ago. That's also on my thread. And I had a podcast on the Less Than 10 Discord that also goes a lot through like my balance ideas and things like that. Because uh, not just talking about nerfs and my balance, it's just general health and ecosystem changes. But and then Saturday I have another kind of event with DTM and all the other CSM candidates. So we'll see how that goes.
Yes, the CSM Royale, or hosted by DTM on his Twitch channel, DTM135. That was a fantastic format last week, and I believe it is on the 29th. So be sure to check that out, guys. There will be a bunch of CSM candidates on there. They'll be given time to chat, and then they're voted off by you, the Twitch chat. So it is definitely out there, but very good way to learn about more candidates. Thank you very much, Stitch. I appreciate all that. And we wish you the best of luck in the CSM16 interview, or in the CSM16 elections. For now, we're going to go to a brief break while we bring in our next candidate, Mantis Akiga. And we'll also be bringing in a translator as well to help us out there. So just sit tight, hang out, and we'll be with you shortly.
Ta-da! Okay, there.
All right, so thanks again. Let's bring in Mantis.
You know that feeling when your super carrier gets bubbled and you don't know what's going to happen? That's what it's like to produce this show, folks. Anyway, keep going.
Well, welcome to the CSM16 interviews, Mantis and CCP Alpha. Thank you very much for joining us. You know, the format is quite straightforward. You've got 10 minutes to chat about your CSM16 campaign. Introduce yourself to the community, what things you find important and what not, or what things you'd like to discuss. And we also have some CSM16 questions for you if you do not fill your full 10 minutes. But let's take it away.
You can speak in Russian, and then CCP Alpha will give a translation, so you can cover both audiences.
I'll try. I wonder if she's back. Like she was, like stepping away for a moment, but.
Okay, well that's
back.
fine too. Whenever she gets back, that is great. We're finally ahead of schedule for a change. That's great.
Yeah, you guys are quite ahead of schedule. I think she was not anticipating that we're gonna be on like right after, but yeah, I'm glad I joined early.
Thank you very much.
Try pinging her.
Oh no, that's fine. We can just wait until we get into the actual schedule, so we can just we can just chat a little bit to ourselves while we wait for it. So far, a lot of you guys, as you've been listening to these CSM16 candidate interviews, you've heard a lot about one name in particular, and that's Asherathi. Asherathi is a wonderful Eve content creator who habitually goes through during CSM season and goes through in-depth interviews with many of the CSM candidates. He doesn't go through everyone, though he does give everyone the option of chatting to him. And at this point, I think he's actually ahead of us in terms of candidates he's interviewed. He's definitely ahead of us in terms of candidate hour interviews that he has accumulated. While we give candidates roughly 10 minutes to give a very brief introduction, Asherathi goes into much more detail. These interviews sometimes take hour plus, and it's a great way to learn like the nitty gritty about your candidate. Another name that you might have heard before is DTM. DTM135 on his Twitch channel has been doing some fantastic work with the CSM interview process. And as I mentioned on Stitch's interview, he also has a very unique format that we've never really seen in Eve before that kind of feels like a game show slash The Bachelor, where he has the panel of CSM invitees of candidates, and they discuss different topics. And then every few minutes, he'll hold the vote in Twitch chat, and one person gets saved, and then one person gets voted off based on their performance. And that's voted entirely by Twitch chat itself. So you have full agency to listen to whoever you want to, or listen to who you do not want to hear anymore. So that is a very, very cool format. And they're not the only ones. All over the Eve media sphere, there are CSM interviews cropping up. So the best way to find out information about this is to follow your favorite candidates or your potential candidates on the CSM campaign threads. In those threads, the candidates will very easily link the things that they want to discuss and appearances where they have showed in the Eve media sphere. So a great branching off point for you guys.
Very refreshing to see how CSM, like the whole, running campaign support that CCP provides has changed over the years. It's I think I'm not wrong in saying that it would have been unheard of, like for us to have these kind of things back in CSM6. At least I don't recall having anyone inviting me to chat with Soundwave or something like that on the stream.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. For those who are unaware or who are not as well versed in CSM history as the old man that is me and CCP Alpha, we were both as our player characters serving on CSM6. So we were both player elected, and that's when it was a much simpler time. I'm not saying it was easier to get onto CSM, but I'm just saying I'm glad I ran back then instead of now. Because the level of effort that the CSM candidates put in is incredibly high. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, you don't have to say that. You can say that actually twice. Like it's ridiculous. Like the stunts everybody's pulling, out. The competition is really, really tough. It's definitely amazing. I think we got. Okay, I don't know. Well, let's give her a moment. Yeah, Kenny G for the win. Nice chat. Nice.
Yeah, we have some CSM. The CSM meta has gone absolutely bonkers this year, and I'm for it. It started off with a Kenny G cameo appearance on a CSM16 video, and not wanting to be upstaged, Brisk enlisted John Heater, aka Napoleon Dynamite, on his CSM16 election video. So I'm just waiting for some completely outlandish stuff and crazy escalations, because I know Eve players, and no one's just going to let it stop at just two, right? So I'm very excited to see in what crazy twists and turns this takes us. And for those people who are wondering, when can I vote? I'm tired of hearing about candidates. When can I vote? Right now, we're in the campaign period, where you learn more about CSM 16 candidates, of which I believe there are 48 for 10 slots. So it is very, very selective. And that goes from, it started on the 20th of May and continues until the 4th of June. On the 8th of June at 11 o'clock, so right at downtime, is when voting begins. And you can find that on the or on the EVE Online forums, or rather webpage. Don't worry, there'll be a really great blog post explaining the whole process. From the 8th of June until the 15th of June. So voting lasts for only that week, where you can vote from downtime to downtime for your candidates. And the format is STV, so single transferable vote. There'll be more information on that, but you can always go to Wikipedia to learn more about it. I can give you explain it like I'm five the definitions for it, but essentially you can rank different candidates in order, so you don't have to just worry that your candidate who might not have a lot of support, you don't want to vote for them if it was just a one-off election where every person gets a direct vote. But in STV, you can vote for that candidate, and if they're eliminated, your vote will then transfer down to the next candidate on your ballot, and so on and so forth. This has really opened up the possibility for different CSM candidates to exist in EVE Online. Back when CCP Alpha and I were running, the format was just direct votes. So whoever got the most votes got in, and then who cared about everyone else? I think the STV has really elevated the CSM to hear more varied voices on the council, and that's something that we at CCP really appreciate and very strongly value.
I love how you can pronounce this acronym without losing it over and over and over again. You're doing so well, man. So well.
I'm doing my best. But someone in chat, Ashrathi, actually mentioned he missed the dates. I don't think he missed the dates. I'm pretty sure they're tattooed somewhere on his body, because that is how passionate about the CSM he is. But for those that might have missed it, the 8th of June to the 15th of June is the voting period. Sorry, I'm also thinking of Girl from Ipanema. Ever since I started saying that, it's been stuck in my head this entire time, and I can't break free. And we did actually mention the Kenny G spot. The candidate who included Kenny G in his campaign video is Baculus Orden, who we'll be hearing from later tonight. He is actually our last interview scheduled for the day. We also have interviews lined up for the rest of the week. Tomorrow, for Friday, we have a very packed house. Feel free to follow the EVE Online Twitter or follow along online the forums as we get the exact times and dates for everything lined up. And we also have interviews scheduled for Saturday. So we've got a very busy week. Started on Tuesday, going through until Saturday. But don't worry if you can't catch it live. We're also uploading all of these CSM16 interviews, candidate interviews, that is, onto our YouTube channel, which can be found at youtube.com/eveonline. Easy to remember and just easy to listen to as well.
Who woke up CCP convict in the middle of the night? Jeez.
I mean, he normally lurks around. I think sometimes or often enough, like Sheltek Sakari keeps him company, and just like or keeps him awake at night rather. Myself including sometimes. Just that entertainment is very like a virus. It spreads really far and wide.
Yeah, I think CCP Convict is part machine as he is part man. He never seems to sleep. I am currently in the US, and every once in a while I'll have a question that I'm hoping to send to him that he'll respond sometime like in the following day because it's like quite late for me. And then lo and behold, no matter what I do, he'll respond to me that evening, even if it's at like 3 o'clock in the morning. He'll be like, "Oh yeah, here's the answer to this, CB Swift." So just a robot man. We
I
have a
think
lot
his
of robot men at
biological
CCP.
clock is from down under still.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I appreciate that we have CCP Alpha with us to do this translation today. Because otherwise, we would be stuck right now.
I'm not translating much. Just hoping. Mantis, как дела?
Not yet.
I will also go ahead and look just a bit of a forward look onto the schedule, the upcoming schedule for this evening. We spoke with Mark Resurrectus at the start of the day, followed by Broodin, Richman, and just recently Stitch Kaneland. Coming up next will be Maldavius at coming up next is Mantis, and after Mantis is Maldavius, then Riker 514, and then we round out the rest of our evening with Baculus Orden. And very excited to hear from all of these candidates. I do know that quite a few of them have been doing some very heavy CSM campaigning. Maldavius was on DTM's first CSM Royale, which was 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago from this upcoming Saturday. Very interesting fellow. Riker also is a very interesting candidate. He hosts a fantastically fun podcast on the New Eden Post called Between Two Keep Stars. I was actually a guest on that podcast once. He decided to slum it and then invite me on, so I was very happy for that. Really fun concept for a podcast. And Baculus Orden, the master poster himself from Delta Squad, he'll be rounding it out, showing everyone how it's done.
Any sign of Mantis yet?
I mean, I don't know if you're reading the Discord or not, but
No, actually. Oops, sorry.
We may be rescheduling Mantis's interview since it is, I think, 6 o'clock in the morning where she is. So
Oh, wow. Oops,
we
sorry.
might
Okay.
be moving her to Friday or Saturday at a much better time zone, but we're still on schedule. So we'll just hang out in this holding pattern for a little bit. And Twitch chat, if you have any questions about the CSM, you've got some fantastic resources here. Carneros has seen the CSM through the last at least 10 incarnations. Myself and CCP Alpha have also gotten a pretty good experience with the CSM format. I first ran for the CSM in CSM5, where I was not anywhere close. And it can be a very harsh feeling when you run for election. You think you've got all the best ideas. I was young and naive at the time, so I thought I was the best candidate that had ever graced the CSM. Of course, I was wrong, and the voters also thought I was wrong. But the following year, I just barely squeaked on as an alternate because back then, not only was it easier to get on, but there were 14 slots. So there were more slots and an easier path in. So I was just like, I was 14 out of 14. And that's actually the first time that I got to visit Reykjavik and the first time I got to interact with CCP on a professional level. And that feels like it was not that long ago. It was actually 10 years ago. So I'm old. That's cool. And then
That's nice. We're all getting older and older and older. I actually also squeaked in, but I think like somebody dropped out, and I managed to fill in that 14th alternative slot, which was amazing. But like I did get over 1,000 votes, so I felt pretty good about that.
I think I got like 760 something. But after that, I got a bunch. For CSM7, I got a bunch more votes. So that was cool. People like to hear what I had done. And I also was on a bunch of podcasts as well. Back then, the Eve podcast community was just this budding blossom. And now it is just a full-fledged orchid of fantastic community resources. I just am checking out the CCP or the Eve Online Twitch channel now, and I see so many fantastic faces with like great production quality. We've got interviews from Lasers and Lace with Uriel and Rick Javix, other CSM candidates. You should definitely check them out, and you should check that interview out as well. But later, because we're the main show here. Gory Xander, a brand new EVE Online streamer, relatively brand new EVE Online streamer. It has been fun watching him progress through EVE Online. I feel like I have a vested interest now in his success. Another CSM candidate, Merkel Chen, is also streaming on his channel Rampage Inc. Merkel Chen is a current CSM incumbent running for re-election, and he's definitely a name and face you've heard before.
I will take this question from Santeri Bread about the role of the CSM. I've never served on the CSM, but I have been on the opposite side of the table presenting items to the CSM, and I can tell you that it is a huge benefit to have people to bounce ideas off of. The exact timing of each different idea is going to vary between sometimes you present things at a very rough early stage, sometimes you wait until they're polished and you've answered every question and they're ready to go, and then you present them. It depends, but in every case, it's super useful. You can get the CSM to give you feedback on, is this a good idea? How will it be exploited? How will it be received? How do we need to adjust our messaging? Is this even the right name for this? No, there are lots and lots of extremely valuable ways to interact with the CCP, with the CSM. And I can tell you for a fact that there are ideas that the CSM has helped CCP decide not to do. And if you knew, you would hug your next CSM member. I'm just saying. They're a huge help.
Yes, part of the CSM does mean that CCP does give them privileged information, so we force them to sign a very ironclad NDA, so they can't really discuss everything that they speak about. But I will echo Carneris's points. Being on this side of the fence and having been as a CSM myself, there are many areas that the CSM has a tremendous impact on EVE Online. They are a great resource that we very strongly value. In fact, just today I got out of a meeting that ran a little bit long, but it ran long because CCP wanted it to run a little bit longer, not because the CSM was like dragging, just dragging it through. So we kept them there for an extra hour. Mike is in chat; he can attest to this now. So just a fantastic resource and something that is very important for you to vote for. So please do go ahead and check out these candidates. Come up with a list. You don't have to select 10 candidates for the STV. You can just put in one or two if you'd like. Five. I like putting in at least five, right? Because that way I know that my vote does something somewhere in the ether. I unfortunately can no longer vote because I am CCP Swift and not a player, but I will be watching very closely, and with much energy and enthusiasm. CSM season is one of my favorite times of year as an EVE Online player, just because of the discussions that it start. Right, we're talking about 48 candidates running for only 10 slots, but every single candidate does start a conversation. Right, so even if they do not make it onto the CSM, which by math, if it checks out, 38 of them will not make it onto the CSM, but their voices will still permeate throughout the EVE media sphere, at least for the next few months. All right, so great news. Well, not great news, but we had some technical issues with Mandis's microphone, so we're going to reschedule her for either Friday or Saturday. We will have that full schedule to you guys via the EVE Online Twitter and through the EVE Online forums, probably tomorrow morning, just as we kind of get everything nailed out. But next coming up is Maldavius, who is running for CSM16. While we prepare everything for you, feel free to hum to yourselves. Think of your favorite elevator song. Maybe go to the record and put on some Coltrane. That'll be good. Just don't forget about us. We'll be back with you in just a couple moments.
Oops. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, it'll be up there in a second. CCP Swift, we should drag him into the room, into the thingy.
My bad. I screwed up that part. I had one job, guys, and I messed it up.
Bid you farewell, by the way.
Thank you,
very much,
CCP Alpha.
Sleep. Not today, but I'll be back tomorrow.
All right, so we bid farewell to Mantis without a mic or without a functioning mic, and CCP Alpha, the very gracious translator, and we welcome in Maldavius. Maldavius, welcome to this CCPTV and the CSM16 interview process.
Hey guys, glad to be here.
Just happy your mic works. Thank you.
Yeah, no, my mic definitely works.
All right, and tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself.
Okay, so let's see. I've been playing EVE now, since 2007? I remember back when asteroids were just like kind of gray lumps of clay in space, super long ago. And it's funny because the first thing that I wanted to do in EVE is I wanted to be an inventor. That was the first thing that I saw. I was like, oh man, the science skills are so cool. I'm going to go invent a whole bunch of stuff and do all this kind of stuff. So I trained into science skills, not into ship skills, not into gun skills, into as many science skills as I possibly could. And then I found out you needed a tower to do any of that. And I had wasted a huge amount of time into that stuff, and it was very funny. And then after that, I got into kind of like frigate PvP. So I started training those because I didn't have very many ship skills, and I started doing DED sites. So I started doing that kind of stuff. And then after a while of doing that, I got into kind of a small corp, and I started doing mining stuff. Started doing mining director stuff from them. Learned how to fly bigger and bigger ships. And then I went out and I joined the Null Blocks, and I became a member of Goonswarm, long time, for a very long time. And I did a bunch of Null Block wars and things like that. Well, after the wars were over, I got really bored. So I ended up winning Eve for a little while. I stopped playing Eve for a bit. And when I came back, the invasion had started, the Triglavian invasion, and it was amazing. Seeing people from everywhere in the game working together, regardless of what corporation or alliance they were a part of, regardless of if they were a miner for 10 years in that system or if they were a null block FC or whatever it was that was going on, it was incredible. So I joined it, and I was an line member for a little while. Then I was an FC for a little while, and now I'm the alliance leader of the largest Triglavian alliance called Strybog Clade. And I built all of that because of how amazing that event really was.
So you were one of those scary Triglavian people. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is true. One of the scary triangles. I actually sent you guys over the video. Do you have that?
We may, but we may actually just throw it into Twitch chat for other people to watch on their own. In fact, I threw it in there as well, so you guys can check that out. So you mentioned that you've got some pretty storied history with EVE Online. When you talk about the lumps of clay as asteroids, I remember those days.
Yeah.
It's hard to actually remember when Eve was different looking. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but space used to not have nebula. It was just black. And I thought it was
Yeah.
the coolest thing then. And then the nebula are added in, and I was like, oh, wow, this got cooler.
Yeah, and like adding in all the skyboxes and adding in all the different art and really like defining what things looked like in Eve changed the game in a way that today everyone just takes it for granted. But every asteroid used to look the same. You didn't know what it was unless you clicked on it or read the actual title on it. And that was one of the most interesting things, is seeing that evolve over time, and also seeing the ships evolve over time. Moving parts on ships didn't used to be a thing. They were just static models, and this kind of stuff it's wild to see now. So yeah, I've been around a long time. I've done a whole lot of different stuff throughout that, and I really love where Eve has gone in the last 10 years.
I do too.
So, Carlos, go ahead.
No, I do too. It's come a long way. Yeah, that's amazing.
To that end, what you mentioned a little bit, but maybe go into a little bit deeper. What would you say your area of expertise is in EVE Online? And kind of piggybacking on that, what do you feel you would bring to the CSM?
So what I feel I would bring to the CSM is I've been working in the games development industry now for about 16 years. 5 years of that was in quality assurance. I know how large scale games are made. I know all the moving parts that go into doing that kind of stuff. And because of that, it's going to be much easier for me to talk to CCP, you guys, on the level that you understand, while also taking the feedback from the community and turning it into that normal type of speech, being able to talk to the community and interact with them, and then being able to transfer it to you guys. And that's really, really important, because one of the things that I see all too often today in game dev is there's a lot of camps of people that either think that game developers are lazy because they don't think that the job is very hard, or they think that game developers are just God's gift to the universe and can do no wrong. Neither of those things are really true. At the end of the day, they're people. They're people doing a job, and that job can be very hard at times. And they're making things that not only have to work, but have to be fun for all parties involved. And that doesn't always hit the mark. And it's something that we have to come together and communicate about and be honest with each other about. And that's something that I want to bring to the table.
Very well said. Very efficiently put as well. Your experience in the game dev world will definitely be valuable, especially speaking to other game devs, or you speak their language. It's a language that I'm picking up myself bit by bit. So I might grab you on the corner and ask for some tips.
Sure.
But to that end, what do you think is the best role for the CSM as a player body?
Honestly, it's the voice of the players. It's really, there's an old saying that we have, right? All feedback is important, but not all feedback is correct. There are different perspectives from a number of different players out there, and you have to find the one way that works for as many players as you possibly
Yeah.
can without completely disrupting gameplay for small groups. And that's really hard to do. So if I can do that, that is what I think the CSM should really be doing, is just taking as much feedback as they can from as many sources as possible, and then coming up with a way that works for as many players as they can. And being able to take that to CCP and say, hey, these are the ideas of the players. What do you think about these? Which one of these would work? And also, after CCP creates the solution to those perceived problems, the CSM can then say, players will do this with what you're planning to do, and stop them from making things that could destroy the game for everybody. Because at the end of the day, as developers, I understand what it's like. I understand what it's like building something and going, man, this would be really cool, and then putting it on the table and players going, I'm going to do something awful with that. I'm going to exploit the living hell out of that. That is normal. That's totally normal for a very massive scale game. And if the CSM can be a stopgap to prevent that from happening, the game's going to be a lot better.
All right, so you mentioned, giving feedback to the CCP. To that end, uh, how do you plan to interact with the community and your voters, and how can they reach you right now?
So I already have quite a lot of ways to do that. I'm actually a partnered streamer here on Twitch. I talk to the community very frequently about everything that I'm working on, all the things that I want to do, stuff that I want to, build, and I also take feedback through that, like on live. Like because one of the things that I really really like is not just static feedback, not just eve mails, not just things like that, but also come have a conversation with me. Come into Discord, let's have a chat. Go onto my stream, let's have a chat there, because having a real back and forth conversation is going to get those things, both sides are going to understand
Hmm.
much better. But outside of that, if you don't want to do that, if you're, afraid of talking or anything like that, or you're nervous, you can always send me an email to Maldavius. You can also contact me on Discord at Thor number 5264. And you can also send me an email at gopiratesoftware@gmail.com. All of these ways you can reach me at any given time. And I do this for my entire alliance as well. We've got about 600 members, and the Coalition of Pachman has well over 1,000 members. And I get emails every single day. On average, because I work from home and I work for myself, I do about 8 to 14 hours a day of going through that feedback right now because it is immense. And I spend all of that time doing that currently to try and come up with the ideas that are listed in my videos and also on my website at maldavius.space. All of that is based on player feedback, and all of it comes into me every day.
So it sounds like you've got a great avenue to not only listen to feedback, but to respond it 14 hours a day. I've been there
It's a lot.
before. That's mighty impressive.
It's
And
campaign
you
season. Got to
mentioned
do it.
exactly. You do mention Podchman. For those that aren't familiar, what is your role in that area of space?
So in Pachman, I'm the alliance leader of Strybog Clade. We're the largest alliance in the region. We have some of the only infrastructure in there, the larger scale infrastructure, and we try to make that available for the rest of the people in Pachman. We also run a coalition. It's the old meme of the blue triangle. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of this. It's because our citadels can't be replaced. Because we can't place down new citadels, everyone works together to be able to protect them so that we don't lose access to features and services inside of our entire region, because you can't put down new ones. That's it. Once they're gone, they're gone. And that's a very big point of contention for our people in Pochvan. It's ended up being kind of a weird development area where people are pretty upset about it, actually.
Very interesting. So, you mentioned that you do a lot of outreach on Twitch through your own channel. Um,
Yes.
for the CSM itself, I know I saw you on DTM's casino. I don't want to say Casino Royale, CSM Royale, a few weeks ago. Do you have any other appearances that are coming up in the Eve Metasphere for people to look out for?
So I'm going to be on a lot of different interviews going forward. You're probably going to catch me on Ashtarothi's stream again pretty soon. I know that I'm going to be on DTM's again, probably this Saturday. So there's quite a lot of other stuff that I'm going to be doing in terms of interviews. I'll keep everyone updated. We send it out over the Discord, and I also send it out to groups inside of Eve. So if you want to know about that, just send me an email, send me a message in game, and I can always get that to you.
That is great. I look forward to seeing so many more interviews from all the CSM candidates. Asherathi's stream, he actually is just mentioning in chat that every time he gets you on to his show, you guys start talking about Pochfin instead of the CSM. So eventually, I'm sure he'll put that aside for just a moment because
I mean, it's
CSM
one of
season
those
is still
things
here.
it's one of those things that's funny is like Ashrathi and I talk a lot about Poshvin and Triglavian stuff because he was there throughout the entire invasion as well. There's so much that happened because of that invasion, and I've talked to actually a number of you guys about it. It was development gold. The idea that you could take some part of space and a 10-year miner that literally just sat in that system and mined forever is now doing nullsec PvP in his own system was insane. They got so much experience and so much mixing between different communities and silos in the game. That was so positive for Eve. And that's the kind of stuff that I really, really like. And I've evangelized it since the beginning. And that's why our alliance exists. We came up out of nowhere because of that.
Well, it is always interesting when players take something that we create at CCP and then transform it into something beautiful in ways that we could never perceive. Maldavius, thank you very much for the chat. I know it was a brief 10 minutes, and it sounds like we have quite a lot to talk about. So for people that are interested, make sure to follow him on social media. Check out his CSM campaign thread, where you'll see his YouTube video for his campaign as well. And as I mentioned before a few times, check out DTM135's Twitch channel, where Maldavius, among several others, will be appearing for the CSM Royale 2 this Saturday, the 29th.
And yeah, if anyone out there, if you want to see the video, if you could link that again, because it won't let me link it. I just tried. Moobot killed me.
Moobot is very vicious and hates links of all sort. But
It's
you're
true.
good to go.
Right, to let me
I
sneak
timed
one
you
in.
out too.
Okay.
All right. See you
All right.
guys.
Thank you very
But
much.
thank you very much, Maldavius. We will be transitioning into our next interview, our penultimate interview with Riker 514. We will set everything up for him, and we'll be with you very, very shortly.
Totally easily shortly. Right. Excellent. You always have to double check I before E. Anyway. Welcome, Riker 514. Yes, he's already in here. Let's hope his microphone works.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Would you like to take a moment and introduce yourself for our guest, for our viewers?
I actually just realized that I had the stream running. All right. So my name is Riker514. I am a Pandemic Horde line member. I started in the game. I started even roughly 2012. Moved to Fountain right pretty much immediately when I started playing the game. I was playing around in high sec and decided to actually use a Rifter as a mining chip. And then I received an Eve mail saying, "Hey, you should come out to Fountain. We're a part of Test, and it's great. We're all having a fun time." I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll come out to Fountain." Go out to Fountain, and then a few weeks later, I didn't know what Goonswarm was, but all I know is that they had declared war, and we were getting our stuff invaded. So I was like, "All right, cool." I had no context of what was going on, and later I found out, oh, hey, that was the Fountain War that apparently took place. And after that, I pretty much have fallen in love with Nullsec and have been there ever since.
I like that you just get thrown straight into the fire in one of what is the largest wars in EVE Online's history, and you're just like, "Oh, cool! Everything is fine," as there are fires completely around you.
That's the thing. I didn't even know they were fires. I just saw like a pop-up that says like nodes have started to cloak, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder what that means." Oh well, it's probably nothing. yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience. Currently, after I think it's been about 9 years. Oh wow, 9 years in Eve. Jeez. But yeah, currently I play in nullsec. Like I said, I do keep a small contingent of alts in high sec where I'll do things like mining, mission running, and all the stuff. So, and I also host a Eve talk show every other Sunday between two Keep Stars on New Eden Post. So that's been pretty fun, and yeah, that's a bit about me.
You just casually drop in that, oh yeah, I also do this podcast. That's a fairly large and well-respected podcast. I've heard it has some great guests, some very handsome guests, if I say so myself. But we talked briefly about your history in EVE Online and where you started. Where did you say your expertise lies? Do you have like one area that you're like super passionate about, or are you a little bit more well-rounded?
So I'd say I'm a little bit more well-rounded. I guess it's not really an expertise, but like the thing that I know the most is what it's like to be a nullsec line member. You know, the day-to-day getting up, going on fleets, making some ISK and doing all that fun stuff. So that's where I would say I kind of have a general knowledge, but the real thing that I want to focus on, especially for my CSM candidacy, is PvE and sort of like how PvE can be elevated to something where it's a little bit more than just feels like something that you have to do to make money. It's something that you actually want to do. Currently with the nullsec, within nullsec and with the anomalies, it feels like you undock, you warp your Hela to it, you drop drones, and then you go FK. Whereas Eve has other PvE content like Abyssals where it's very much not that. It's very much engaging and actually something that I find really fun. What I want to do is I want to take that fun and engagement and expand it across PvE as a whole. And that's really what I advocate for, as well as the community. Being someone who runs a stream every other Sunday, I definitely interact a lot with the community through that stream, and I think that that's something that really EVE Online has something that's special. One of the things that is so special about the game is that it's one of those things where the community and the developers have such like an interesting relationship that I really haven't seen very like anywhere else. And I think that that's something that, you know, that community aspect of EVE is something that I think is a little bit overlooked sometimes, sort of in the way that everyone knows about it, but a new player coming into the game doesn't really know about it. They need to really dig in a little bit until it's like, oh, wait a minute, you know, this isn't just a space game. There's actually this really big thriving community of people that, you know, have fun and love each other. You know, where is like, not where is that, but like that's really the core of Eve. And I think that that's something that really needs to not necessarily be advocated because it's not, but advocated more for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you're right about the relationship between the developer and the community. It's something that attracted me to the point that I got sucked into this whole sphere. Um, but it is also something that I've never really experienced before in other games. What I do like quite a bit about the CSM and learning about these candidates is all these candidates. You're all very dynamic and very interesting. I think people would might just look at your ticker, say, "Oh, Busa in Pandemic Horde. This guy is just going to be a nullsec guy." But your expertise, or rather your passions, are more for PVE, which is I think something that people from all walks of EVE Online can get behind in terms of the space that they're in, right? So someone in high sec cares about PVE, low sec, wormhole, Potchman, and null sec. So that is a very neat unifying thread that I think is very unexpected.
So let's say you get elected to the CSM and you're going to your first meeting and they hand you the schedule for the meeting. What are you hoping would be the agenda in the very first meeting you go to?
So the agenda, I personally think for the very first meeting would be start off with getting to know the candidates. or not the candidates, but getting to know the CSM members. I think that if CCP and the CSM get to know each other, they can really sort of figure out, okay, what are we supposed, what kind of people are we talking to? What are the different things we're advocating for? And then after that, immediately move on to, all right, this is the state of the game we think it's in. What do you guys think? Where are the big sort of pain points in the game? And what are we thinking about what we want to do for that? One of the big things that I think that, should be talked about is what people enjoy about the game, what we're doing to push that, and then how are we doing not to just push that but improve it. And it should be all centered around what is currently happening that the community likes, and what is the community currently saying.
All right, so a very strong involvement with the community sentiment, which is something that resonates with me, because that's something I like to kind of keep an eye on. But as a CSM16 candidate, there are a slew of very talented people running. What do you feel like distinguishes you from the rest of the candidates? What's something that kind of stands out, at least in your mind, when you look at the sea of potential CSM16?
So one of the things I actually thought made me stand out was my experience in the game industry, which after listening to the Maldavius interview, I realized that I'm not the only one. So currently, right now, I work in the industry as a QA tester, and my job is about. Well, I'm essentially meant to be someone who is supposed to advocate for the player. So whenever I'm giving feedback to the developers about something that's being worked on or whatever, part of my job is not just to find bugs and to break things. It's to say, hey, this thing might be unfun, or this thing can be abused by the players. We should do X or we should do Y. And it's my ability, like Maldavius said, to be able to talk to developers in a language that they understand, and to give feedback that I guess is sort of measured in the fact of like, this isn't like feedback that can't be anything done. How do I say this? Giving developers actionable feedback that they can actually act on and use, instead of like, okay, this is something that's broken. We don't know how to fix it, but we just know it's broken. Here's what people are doing. I think with my experience, I can sort of bring to the CSM, hey, we should say it this way. We should look into this, ask people about this, put that into a report, and then give that to CCP.
Sounds very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do you have any? Go ahead.
Say someone in chat. Actually, wait. I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay, never mind.
Chat's a little rambunctious at the moment. Yeah. Someone just gave him coffee, I think.
I do have a bit of an off-the-wall question. That it might be actually a little bit too esoteric, so feel free to just punt on it if you want to, and it doesn't reflect poorly on you at all, because I think there's only like a handful of people that have a good answer to it. But the CSM, as we talked about before, is a very historic institution for EVE Online. It is entering its 16th term. We've seen a lot of very talented people come in and out through those doors and represent the community going all the way back. Would you say you have a favorite candidate from the past who like not necessarily is running now, but they could be if you want to, who you really respect and who sort of motivates you as a potential CSM member?
In all honesty, probably both Brisk Rubal and Maldavius. Brisk Rubal being because we had like our sort of gameplay experience is very similar. He also is extremely professional and is almost like the gold standard of how you should act when running a CSM candidacy. Whereas Maldavius, he's, like he said in his interview, he has the knowledge and the industry knowledge to sort of help the CSM do what they need to do. And I think people like that should be on the CSM. I would just like to be joining them.
Nice.
Yeah,
I hope that was good.
Brisk has a very storied history on the CSM. He's been very effective. He's run wonderful campaigns, and his outreach through CSMs that he's been on, including this CSM term, CSM15, is definitely something that I admire. So that's a fantastic choice. I'm glad that question wasn't absolutely horrible. After I wrote it down, I was like, hey, wow, this question is written just for you and no one else. Crap. So great work on that one. We are actually wrapping up close to the 10-minute mark here. Do you have any closing thoughts? And also on that note, we've talked about at length during this segment about how different candidates might be appearing onto different areas of the Eve Manosphere. If there are any shows that you are queued to go up on lately, where more people can find more information about you, now is the time to plug those.
So I'm definitely going to be on my show Between Two Keep Stars in the next probably week or two. Then I'm going to be going on the CSM Royale. And other than that, I don't know really of anything else that I'm going to be on. If people want to talk to me, I actually have a Discord that's set up that you're free to join. You can see it in my CSM post. So there's always that.
Very good. So yeah, the CSM Royale you are mentioning, that's on DTM 135's channel this Saturday. I don't remember the time for it. I had it written down, but I lost that post-it because I am an old man and I still use post-it notes in the era of the internet and computers.
I'm not saying anything.
But thank you very much, Riker, for this chat. Again, I'll post your link into the chat where you can learn more about it, where you can learn about Riker some more. So thank you very much. And we're going to go into a brief holding pattern while we wait for our final candidate of the evening.
Right, stand by, folks. All right. Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Have we dragged him in yet?
Yes, he is in now.
Welcome. Welcome to the show. Please tell me your microphone is working.
That depends. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Welcome to day 2 of the CSM candidate interviews for CSM16. Tell us a little bit about yourself, sir. I only know you from but I know who you are mainly from one thing. And I'm going to put a link in Twitch chat that half the audience won't be able to see, and I apologize.
I've also linked Baculus's campaign thread as well, and also his campaign website, which know not believe.in. It's definitely something that I think everyone can believe in.
Yes, I apologize for my mic. And also that link that we put in from Goonfleet, you're going to need to have a Goonfleet account. So unfortunately, you have to be an Imperium to see it, but it's a beautiful guide to making ISK with Abyssal Dead Space sites. Thank you. Thank you for that.
And thank you, both of you. Thank you, Carneros and Swift. I think this is the second time we've talked. The last time we talked, you were Elise. And it's awesome to see you doing the community outreach. So thank you both, and for having me and for the great job just interviewing everyone. This has been great. I've been watching the entire time. Everyone's really cool. Wow, Maldavius. Following him's pretty hard. Thank you, Carneros, for plugging the Abyssal Guide. I think some portions of it have been leaked, so hopefully some of the Pappy pilots have seen it, and they should, definitely use it. It's awesome. It's out there for everybody. But yeah, I'm here. I am the Delta Squad candidate, which is why my website is knowNotBelieve.in, because that's one of our mantras is know not believin'. And I'm here to bring Delta Squad values to the CSM while representing everyone in New Eden as a whole. And I'm just so stoked to be here. I really am.
Well, that is great. Flattery will get you everywhere. So you've got 25 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. You have the standard 10 minutes as everyone else. That was a wonderful introduction. Baculus Orden. I'm all about the posting and never not believing in yourself. But for those who might not have heard about you, how would you describe yourself to I guess, the greater EVE Online community?
Definitely. So I've been playing Eve off and on, like most people, since 2007. I started off as, a high sec player and then a null sec renter. I lived in wormholes for years with a small group of English speaking and Russian speaking players. We were just an alliance of about 40 people, doing PvP very poorly and forgetting to refuel our Caldari Pass. That was kind of our MO. From there, I went and joined Goons, actually, during the First World War B. I joined up just in time to move to Saranin and get camped by you guys in the station when you were with PL. I have, on and off Eve for 14 years. I've been a
I'm on camera
Goon
for
line member,
about
first in Karma Fleet
15
and
more
in
minutes.
Goon Wafa
So don't come over
for
here on
about the
camera,
last 6
please.
years.
I'm on camera.
Primarily, I started
I'll
off
come and
being
get it in
very
about 10,
invested in
15 minutes.
industry. I thought that was,
I'm sorry.
the most interesting aspect of the game to me, and I was not very good at PvP. Lately, I've learned how to blow up a ship and not care, that ship being mine, typically. And that's sort of the attitude that I'm bringing. My PvE experience is mostly Wormhole and now Abyssal Dead Space. So I've worn a bunch of hats, walked in many shoes. I have a lot of experience, but mostly for me, Eve has been a social game. It's been about the people that I'm flying with, and not necessarily the code running on the server.
Well, that is very good. That's as I mentioned in the last interview. That's why I love learning more about CSM mechanics, because you're like, oh, this guy's a nullsec line member. He's going to be talking all about being in these large fleets and stuff like that. But no, you got much more nuanced views and expertise, from wormholes to abyssal dead space.
Yep, and again, like for me, and particularly what I want to push on the CSM as part of my candidacy, is advocating that social aspect of Eve. For people who aren't familiar with Delta Squad, we are a social group on the Imperium side, but we have a set of core values and beliefs that we adhere to, and that sort of governs us and how we conduct ourselves in the game. And through that, we have generated a lot of content, I think, for players on both sides. I know definitely a lot of the Poppy people have, shot at me if they haven't had to put up with me in local chat.
Well, that is very good. You mentioned a lot about the social elements of EVE Online. if you were elected, and hopefully people aren't getting bored of this answer or this question, but I really love it. How do you plan to interact with the community and your voters?
So the community as a whole, everyone is equal. I think when you're a CSM member, even the people who didn't vote for you, you're not really beholden to anyone. And I don't intend to treat block players different from, a high sec player. Um, on my website, I've made my personal Discord available so that people can just shoot me a message if they want. I do actually respond to Eve mails. Goonwafa has a bit of a corporate thing about Eve mail at the moment, so we're all pretty much on top of them. I'm usually responding to Eve mails while I'm in meetings at work. So I do actually genuinely read my emails if people want to get at me that way. And I also have my CSM Gmail address out there, and that account goes straight to my phone, like my Discord. So I'm usually available for people, and I intend to be held accountable for my involvement with the CSM as a CSM member. I think that over the last few years, what I've noticed is that the CSM is a little quieter now. There's not as much posting. There's not as much community engagement, like very vocal community engagement. And I know part of that is the war going on, but I intend to make myself fully available. And if anything, be probably too available. Probably going to irritate my girlfriend.
Okay. Now let's imagine for a moment that you get elected and you're on CSM16. What are a couple of subjects you really, really, really want to see show up on a meeting agenda for while you're in Iceland at a CSM summit?
So the first and foremost is greater communication and transparency. Scarcity is I know a lot of CSM candidates are talking about scarcity. My problem with it is that we're not hearing anything from CCP about like what their end state is going to be. And there's a reason for that kind of in, if you tell someone they're going to metagame out what they need to do and try to manipulate the market or things like that. But honestly, greater clarification there would help the community. Scarcity has hurt a lot of people. People are nervous, they're apprehensive about it. So I'd like to shore up that communication. Um, and then I would like to see incentives for player activity, like player driven events. I really want to see CCP get involved again. We've had those historically, they seem to kind of have fallen by the wayside. And I think it's important that CCP goes out there and empowers players like Maldavius, for instance, who do a massive amount of work organizing on behalf of their alliances and other alliances, even, and just give them additional resources to handle things. Maybe maybe be very transparent in doing it, but to definitely empower them. And then I would honestly, and this is going to be a controversial point, I would like to have a discussion about fleet sizes and the state of the game with regard to the scale of wars, and should we be incentivizing smaller fleets having multiple engagements all over the place as opposed to these big set piece battles? Because when you look at Fozzy on paper, for instance, it seems like CCP was moving in that direction, and then they just kind of walked it back a little too far. I think as a member of Delta Squad, my ideal fleet size is 50. I know that's not for everybody, but I was in both M2 battles, and a tie-dye lag fest is just not something that I think is, right to be the climax of every single war.
There's
Okay.
actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I was chatting with another CSM member. Who I don't want to out just in case that this view is as you mentioned, a little bit radioactive. But when I was running for CSM6, I thought an idea that would be very cool would be to limit fleet size down from 256, which is what it's at now, to like 70, because I thought that would in my mind that would elegantly solve a lot of problems and create added complexity for the much larger fleets. So that is very nifty to hear someone else say something similar, because it means that I was not having a fever dream about EVE Online, and it's actually something that other people think about too.
Absolutely, and this is something we've talked about on the Something Awful forums and in Delta Squad, and I have some Russian friends who kind of have the same thought process, because if my alliance can field 5,000 people, that's fine, but it should be, to be fair, a logistical nightmare for us to organize and get 5,000 people together. Like, there should be some technical debt, there should be some skill debt, and we should open up the ranks of FCs. There are so many people out there who are talented and only now getting their first bite at the apple of FCing because we're so late into a war and so many other people are tired. Whereas I think a smaller fleet size, we would have to see way more FCs, and then a larger organization has to pay a greater cost to compete with a smaller organization. I think it's the best way to sort of put alliances of different sizes on even footing. And so I totally agree with that take, and I'm glad that you also had the same thought.
Controversial indeed. Okay. What's another subject that you think should be another look should be taken at it? Something that we should maybe go back and rebalance or just reimagine.
So rebalancing, I would like to see industry and particularly cooperative industry get another look at. I would like to see some UI changes there, because there are so many like recycled assets and stuff in industry that it's a headache when you're trying to build 500 ships all at once. But as far as like if we're talking innovative, something new, based on what I've seen in like the last year or two of gameplay, I would like to see regions really be made unique again. Things like abyssal weather and abyssal effects, things like that, maybe on a smaller scale, applied to regions again. Maybe the reason that the Amar still use lasers is because in domain they don't suck quite so bad. Something like that. Something to really differentiate the nullsec regions, in addition to new sites and new activities that would be unique to each region, something to really incentivize and shake things up out in nullsec, and push those effects into low sec and high sec in different and unique ways.
How would those effects be different from a metaliminal storm, as Ashtarothi puts it?
That is, I mean, the metaliminal storms were honestly what had given me the first idea, where I was like, oh, this should be like a permanent thing, or maybe it just permanent in different constellations and stuff, different pockets of space. Um, Maybe they would look the same. Maybe they would be wilder. Um, some storms that make armor reps not always so painful to use would be great. Um, Maybe different effects based on the level of industry happening in a system, because these are things where we've seen CCP has already kind of paid forward the technical debt for applying them, and hopefully getting them applied in a new and really interesting and engaging way for players wouldn't cost CCP much. And based on the community's feelings on it, we could suss out, is this something that we want to do? Is the scale of it right? What should be the scale? And those are the sorts of innovations that I want to bring to the CSM.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Baculus. And we mentioned this, or we probably teased about this a little bit earlier. Um, while we were chatting about the CSM season this year, and you are ground zero for the coolest aspect of CSM campaigns that I have ever seen. One of your CSM campaign videos includes a cameo by Kenny G, which started off a chain reaction, which I hope just keeps exploding somewhere and becomes even more outlandish and crazy. So thank you sincerely for that inventive creativity and adding a new element to the CSM. I will always be floored by the creativity and just hilarity that the Eve players bring to the game.
No problem. It was awesome to do. And I saw Brisk's Napoleon Dynamite cameo, and I gotta say, Yeah, we're escalating. We're upping the ante, and hopefully this just continues getting out of control.
All right, for those that haven't seen it, make sure to check out Baculus's CSM campaign thread and also his campaign website, knownotbelieve.in, which I've linked into the chat. But for those that are just listening, you can just feel free to type that in. And it's also in, if you just go to the EVE Online forums through the CSM section, you'll be able to find all of the candidates running for CSM16 and check out their campaign threads. But Baculus, thank you very much for taking the time this evening to chat with us. Very insightful stuff. We appreciate it very greatly.
Thank you guys. You're doing a great job.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe day 3.
All right, I'm going to drag you out of here, which hopefully won't break everything.
It won't. Don't worry. Day 3 will
magic
start
the world
at
continues to go on.
18:30 tomorrow.
I know we've kept you guys late this evening, so thank you very, very much for watching and following along with the rest of the CSM interviews. As I mentioned before, this is only day 2. We have 3 more action-packed days. Nope, 2 more action-packed days for you. We'll be live streaming the event beginning tomorrow, Friday at probably 18:30 is when our first interview goes live. But be sure to check out here a little bit early. We'll probably go live around 18:15 Eve time, so UTC. And again, we'll be posting the recording of that onto YouTube, hopefully within a day or so, as well as with this one. You can access that at youtube.com/eveonline for all your CSM needs. And before we go, I also want to plug a few wonderful people in the community who are doing some great CSM work. Ashrathi on his channel is doing much more in-depth interviews with all of these CSM candidates. We're just giving you, we're here to give you like a little tease as to what you can expect.
Yeah.
Just a little taste of the potential CSM16 candidates. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to experience the savor that is the CSM16 elections, I'm going way too deep on the food metaphors here. Feel free to check out the EVE Media Sphere. As I mentioned, Asharathi does a great job. DTM135 on his Twitch channel will be hosting a CSM Royale this weekend. And that's not the only place to find the information. Lasers and Lace, who rated us just a couple minutes before, they did an interview with Rix Javix and Uriel, whose name needs no introduction. He's just Uriel, who are both running for the CSM. So it's all over the place. The best place to find this information is through these candidates CSM threads, where they'll be linking all of their appearances, upcoming and future. So be sure to check that out.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, 18:30 tomorrow and 18:30 Saturday as well.
Yep, and the schedule, which we're still ironing out, because some CSM candidates need to move things around. It will be finalized and posted on the EVE Online Twitter tomorrow, so you can see exactly which candidates will be appearing on our interviews for Friday and then again for Saturday. But thank you very much, everyone. I've been CCP Swift with my co-host Carneros of the Bastion. Thank you very much, Carneros, for joining me and also for producing the show. That has made my job tremendously easy since you're doing all of the very difficult button pressing in the background. So thank you very much. If you guys want to hear more of Carneros, he does a wonderful EVE Online stream right here on the CCP channel every Tuesday evening called Carneros and Chill.
0200.
It's Tuesday evening, right?
Yeah, Wednesday morning. 0200. Tuesday evening. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Take care, everyone, and fly safe.